Well, people, we have got for you right now 100 crowns for my head. Yeah, this is a fascinating documentary, right? It is by Habibata Ouarme. And yeah, it's exploring a lot of stuff around hair, right? Afro Caribbean hair, black hair. So this is written and directed by Habibata. We have got production from Habibata Ouarme too. She's the producer. Executive producers are Alexandrin Torres de Figueiredo, along with Byron A. Martin. Cinematography is from Richard Diaz, Andre Dufour, Jim Donovan, and Jusas Serenos. Boban Choldovich edits the piece. Right, we have got Benoit Grouet and Chiro Nagamatsu taking care of the score. Luca Toma is sound design. Who else do we have? I think that's everything. I mean, interesting enough, they do actually list who designed the poster. That was Gerda Botang. And yeah, the poster is very vibrant, right? Now, we do have a host of people, right, participating in this documentary. You know, it talks to like sociologists, hairdressers, historians, dancers, entrepreneurs, journalists, TV hosts, and a host of other people, you know, which is, I think it really adds to this whole discussion, right? Because we get all of these people's viewpoints, right? All of their lived history around hair, right? And the preconceived notions and the stereotyping and, you know, just everything, right? So we hear from Afu Cooper, right, who is a Canadian scholar, author, and artist. There is Juliette Smuradala, right, who is a sociologist and lecturer at the University Institute for Continuing Education at the University of French Antilles in Martinique. We have Martine Muel, right? She is president of the City Council of Montreal, city councillor for the borough of Villeray-Saint-Michel Parc Extension, right? She's a lawyer, an actor, and yeah, she's got a boutique law firm, Muel, right? Who else do we have? There is Isabelle Massy, right, who is a journalist at La Presse. We hear from Katie Anton, right? She's from Quebec, right? She's I think she's a TV host a radio host, right? Said she was a pioneer of hip hop in Quebec, right? On the radio. There's also Clara D. Lewis, right? She is a social worker in Montreal, and she's the founder of Brown Diva Dolls. There is also Stephanie Udia, right? She's a hairstylist who specializes in Afro hairstyling and training at La Ines. We also hear from Pascal Lavache, right? She's a model, blogger, and host from Montreal. There is also Catherine Braffin Dai. Audrey Bellew. And Annalie Adine Jean-Pierre, right? And they are all part of hair party workshops, which is a fascinating idea, people. It really is, right? So, we also have the Little Afro crew, right? We hear from their choreographer, Kelly Arkafu, right? And a lot of the girls in the crew as well. So, yeah, I think that there's other people too, right? But I think they are our main, lot of people that give their time, right? So the gist of this documentary, right? Each braid, each curl, each hairstyle reflects a collective memory. 1001 Crowns immerses you in an experience where hair becomes an act of self-affirmation and identity. The film explores the history and evolution of African and Afro-descendant hairstyles, from the ancient civilizations of the continent to the contemporary expressions of the diaspora. From the scourge of slavery to emancipation, from civil rights struggles to the rise of Black Pride movement in today's popular culture, these hairstyles bear witness to a rich heritage with deep cultural, social, and economic impact. Yeah, right? And Habibata has also provided a director's statement, right? So, through 1001 Crowns for My Head, I invite you on a powerful and intimate journey where hair goes beyond mere aesthetics to become symbols of identity, struggle, and pride. This film highlights the evolution of African and Afro-descendant hairstyles, while paying tribute to the cultural, social, and political heritage they represent. In an increasingly interconnected and culturally diverse world, many people seek to discover their roots, celebrate their heritage, and understand their place in the larger story. As a filmmaker and activist, my work is driven by a deep commitment to social justice, cultural identity, and the empowerment of African, Afro-descendant, and all marginalized communities. I strive to amplify voices that are too often unheard, to tell stories that challenge established norms, and to create safe, inclusive spaces where everyone can see themselves reflected, represented, and valued. Through my work, I hope to shatter preconceived ideas, inspire empathy, and celebrate beauty, resilience, and living together. I was able to see the concrete impact a film can have with Couronnes, which means Big Sister, released in 2023. This documentary continues to circulate in communities and remains a powerful tool for raising awareness both in Canada and internationally. In many cultures, hair and the head represent something sacred. From an early age, I was taught not to allow just anyone to touch my head. But like so many other black women, I quickly realized that society didn't always respect this reality. Unsolicited hands and biased beauty standards reveal just how polarized our bodies are. So it's crucial to break down the barriers and give women the freedom to choose to style their hair as they wish in a system that has long been difficult for them to navigate and still persists. And to change all this, we need to educate ourselves, inform and raise awareness in order to combat ignorance. This film is an invitation to better understand the realities, struggles, and rich identities of Afro-descendant women. In a Canadian society founded on multiculturalism, fostering a better understanding of diversity is essential to building bridges between communities. I hope that this film will inspire young people to love themselves more, to celebrate themselves fully, and to be proud of their cultural heritage. Through this film, I want to encourage African and Afro-descendant women to explore their identity, reclaim their image, and assert their beauty with pride. In short, this film is an ode to the girl, to the Black and Afro-descendant woman, a celebration of our strength, our history, a celebration of our crowns. So, yeah, that is it, right? And it is fascinating, right? It's really interesting because, right, you know, even just the title, 1001 crowns for my head. Like at first you go, wait, huh? Then you just think, yeah, the hair is a crown, right? It's like a hat. You can change it. It can be whatever you want it to be. You know, it's sometimes one of the first things people notice about you, right? Just think when someone changes their hairstyle, everyone's like, yo, oh my gosh, what have you done? Like, oh, that's amazing. That looks so good, right? People will comment on the hair because it's something that, you know, stands out, right? It's a statement. So yeah, it's a crown. And we definitely have been in these times, right, where certain hairstyles, certain looks are frowned upon. You know what I mean? And it's definitely a thing, right? Like I just remember growing up and people all the time want to touch your hair, right? Kids, but kids you can understand. It's the adults where it gets even weirder, right? You get an adult come up and just touch your hair, right? It's not even like that's super weird. Like even just asking the question, can I touch your hair? Is just like, what the fuck are you doing? Right? Because it's not like, you know, people walk up to someone with bangs and it's like, oh, I don't have bangs. Can I touch them? Right? No one does that. You know what I mean? or, different color hair, right? A blonde doesn't walk up to a redhead and it's like, oh my God, can I touch your hair? No. So it is such a weird thing to do because it's just like, how clean are your fucking hands? You know what I mean? Like just putting your hand through someone's hair. It's like walking up to someone and just touching their face, right? Or a girl walking up to another girl and being like, huh, your breasts are bigger than mine. Can I touch them? Right? No one does that, right? As far as I'm aware, anyway. So it's a weird thing to do. It's a super weird thing to do. But it's just one of these weird things that a lot of people think is acceptable, right? And even if, right, you took that to like the teacher at school, like your boss at work, they will look at it like, I mean, it's not like they did anything inappropriate, did they? Right? They will brush it off and tell you you're overreacting. Right? That's what it used to be. Now, I think with the advent of, just different policies at work with HR and stuff like that, it's definitely got better, right? Which I think is why we are seeing people expressing themselves even more with their hair. You know what I mean? Because you can't just fire someone because, they come in with braids, right? Or, they get dreads or, you can't just sack someone on those things unless there's some crazy thing in your contract, you know what I mean? But it has opened the door to more expression. Now, obviously, there are still things that you have to consider, right? Depending on what kind of job you do, because there is still judgments that will be made, right? Like if you got what is that thing called? A mohawk, right? If you're a lawyer and you came into work one day with a mohawk, now your partners at the law firm, they won't be able to sack you, but you also know that when clients come in, they're going to be less likely to want you to represent them, right? That if you're standing in that courtroom, the jury is not going to take you as seriously, right? So there are these things, these barriers and preconceptions that people have. And what Habibata does in the documentary, she talks to all of these different people and they explain their experience, right? And the things that they're doing to help change narratives. It's we have the hair parties, right? From that, the three ladies, Catherine, Braffine Dailly, Audrey Bellew, and Annalie Adaine Jean-Pierre, they run, right, these hair workshops, and they're for little girls to go in and they, teach them how to maintain, look after, and do their hair, right? Which is a big thing because you're giving people autonomy over themselves, right? Because I mean, the big thing is when you're young, right? Like, if you don't know how to do something, you're reliant on someone else to do it for you. So, you know what I mean? A little girl has to wait for her parents to do her hair. And if the parents don't have time, and it's not they don't have time because they don't like the daughter, right? But work and all of these things can get in the way. So if they don't get time to do the hair, then the little girl has to deal with a hairstyle, a haircut that she doesn't necessarily like, right? Or feels represents her. So if she can do the hair herself, right, that's huge. And it also helps them understand that their hair isn't weird, freaky, that it is, as I say, it's magical, right? Because it can become so many different things. And instilling that in a kid is huge, right? It's a huge thing. Because, if depending on where you grow up, right, the diversity of your neighborhood, you could go to a school where you're the only person that looks like you. So if you're the only person that looks like you, everyone else has got different hair. You know what I mean? So it's just like, everyone's going to be like, oh, your hair's weird. Like, what's with your hair? Yo, your hair should be like ours. If your hair was straight, you could do this and blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? You get all of those things. So going to a hair party workshop instills self-esteem, right? And confidence, right? It gives you those building blocks for people then to discover what they want, right? Discover the hairstyle and the look and what represents them, what they feel comfortable with. And obviously you can change your hair, right? You can try many different styles, but that takes a confidence. You know what I mean? It definitely takes a confidence to be able to do that kind of stuff. So, we have that, which I've never heard of anything like it. You know what I mean? Never heard of anything like it. So that in itself is crazy. It's huge, right? It's such a, I think, important thing. So we hear from those ladies, talking, right? Just hearing from a hairstylist, right? When Stephanie Udeaya talks, right? It's just talking about maintaining hair, right? Looking after hair, right? How the different size of the curl, what that means, right? What you do with the hair, how much moisture the hair will need. You know what I mean? Which is something that, I mean, to tell you the truth, I didn't know any of that shit. You know what I mean? I don't know. Right? For me, it was growing, I had a fro growing up, but what I found is, right, because I couldn't just use any hair product. You know what I mean? So I just, in the end, just shaved my head, right? Just because, if you can't find a product that works with your skin, you know what I mean? You're kind of out of choices. And also, you find doing a lot of sport, doing martial arts, you get mad hot, right? And I was just like, you know what? I just shave my head. It'll just be simple, right? It just makes life a lot easier. And I don't then have to, try and find all of these different products and things like that. Because I did find a wax that was fine. So it's just like, boom, I just throw that on, moisturize the scalp, everything is cool, you know? But it's like, to understand the hair, right? To know how to look after it, right? The type of things you can do with it. All of this stuff is crazy important, right? Crazy important. So, yeah, just hearing from all of these people, right? Clara D. Lewis, you know what I mean? She's a social worker, but she also, you know, founded Brown Diva Dolls. And her company, they make dolls that a load of different, you know what I mean, Afro, black, you know, little girls, right? They can buy that actually look like them. Because, you know what I mean, a lot of those Barbies, especially the early black Barbie, like there was only one, right? It was just a normal Barbie, and they made the skin darker. You know what I mean? So feature wise, it was very Caucasian, and then they just give it straight hair, you know. But these dolls have black features, right? They have, you know, she's created dolls with different tightness of curl, right? So depending on how curly your hair is, like you could get a doll like that, right? Because they also do these half heads where I think that's what they were called, right? It's not half a head, right? What it is you just basically, it's one of those things where you just get the shoulders and then the head, right? And girls use them to kind of play with the hair and try different hairstyles and stuff like that. So when you've got a doll like that, and if you can find one with your type of hair, it gives you the freedom to try different styles and go, so that will work with my hair. You know what I mean? And that's great, because there definitely was not that when I was growing up, right? So you just think a load of girls, if they had any, you know, toys like that, it was just, you know, a white doll, right? A white half head. And, you know, if that's what they want, that's fine. But if you want something so you can practice hairstyles for you, you need one that looks like you. You know what I mean? So yeah, we hear from all of these people and get all of these different experiences and stuff, right? Which is great. And then throughout the documentary, we have a slam poet, right? Just talk, well, not talk, but relay this poem, which is, it was you know, I don't think we ever got the whole thing, but what you hear of it, it's good, right? It's just like, okay. And I think by including that, it kind of breaks up what this is, because a documentary, a lot of times it's a lot of talking heads, right? And you can try and change the environment that all of these heads are in, you know what I mean? So you can have like a studio, right? Depending on what work they do, you can have them in their office, right? Their place of work, and use someone outside, and so you can do all of that, but essentially it's still a talking head, right? So insert these different things, like you know, a poet, like pictures of like Egyptian art, because then there's this real interesting thing about like the headpieces, that you saw Egyptians wearing in these hieroglyphics and these other pictures. And what I didn't know, because no one ever really talks about those, right? But it wasn't just this hat kind of thing, like this wig kind of thing. No, right? It was something that, because a lot of times they would shave their head for something, or you used it as a ceremonial thing, but it kind of placed on your head, and there was a kind of like a hollow kind of a space for your hair to still grow. You know what I mean? And there was this other stuff, and just hearing about those things, that was crazy interesting. Because as I said, never, ever heard anyone talk about those. And I've watched so many documentaries about like ancient Egypt and the hieroglyphics and pyramids and tombs and all of these things, right? So you learn about all of these other aspects of the culture, but never have they talked about that stuff. So we're inserting those different things into this, which was great, right? Really, really interesting. And I think those are the things that kind of separate this, right? That elevate it into, I think, more than just this, film, right? More than just this documentary on hair. It's kind of like a thesaurus, right? Because it is giving you this insight into expression, right? Like a thesaurus, you might go, what's another word for? Right? With this, you're like, oh, there's all of these things about hair, right? And this understanding about hair, right? About the culture, about the maintenance, right? What you can do with it, and also about the pride of it. And I think that's something that, you don't always get, right? You have people talking about culture, you have people talking about clothing and shoes and just all manner of different things, but you don't always get them talking about hair and what that means, what that represents. So hearing this, it's important. It's an important thing, especially when you also think about throughout the years, right? And the different perceptions on it. Because you would hear back in the day, like, oh, if you have this kind of hairstyle, it's going to be difficult getting a job, right? It'll be difficult meeting people. But which, I mean, it wasn't a lie, right? Because, everyone in the workplace, they're recruiting essentially a lot of the times on people that look like them. That's why when you walk around, you sometimes see like maybe a lot of brunettes, right? And then the boss is brunette, right? And you're like, oh, right. Because the boss is consciously or subconsciously looking at people that they feel comfortable with, right? That rep them. So that's what they employ. So if you come in with dreadlocks, they're going to be like, yo, you know what I mean? But that was then. Times have changed, and that is, right, because as different things have changed, right, like the things that are accepted in society. Because if you know, back in the day, there was the minstrel shows on TV. You don't do that anymore, right? The language that was used, they would drop the N-bomb all the time on TV. Not anymore. So as these things shift, it makes sense that the acceptance of hair has shifted. You know what I mean? So it is that kind of thing. It's like changing the path of a river, right? It doesn't just, you know what I mean, change direction. It's a slow thing, but it eventually does. And that's what we are kind of seeing when it comes to acceptance of culture and, you know, people's looks and how they represent themselves. And it's things like Habibata's documentary that can help these things along. So the only thing really that was a bit of a problem with the documentary is the subtitling, right? That's the only thing. Everything else was great, right? The different people, right? The variety of speakers, you know, all the information, that's all great. But, and, you know me, people, I've talked about this so many times. So it's like, we got white subtitle text, but there's no solid background behind it, which is the problem, because at times, right, people are wearing light clothing, you know, there's a light background, and the white text gets lost in it, which, it was frustrating. It was frustrating. Now, if you can speak French, boom, you're golden. You know what I mean? You can follow it. Unfortunately, I cannot. So, yeah, it made it a bit of an issue. But that's the only thing. You know what I mean? And you could muddle through, right? I was able to muddle through. And it was definitely worthwhile. It was definitely worthwhile to, you know what I mean? To actually watching and absorbing this piece of work, right? So, yeah, battle through the subtitling, people. It will be worth it. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, if you get the opportunity, people, I definitely feel this is a great thing to watch. It's something that probably would be beneficial to play in schools. Most definitely schools, right? In youth clubs and just different things like that. You know? So yeah, all the links will be on the website. So go check out 1001 Crowns for My Head by Habibata Ouarme.